Dear students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 7th February 2018. The first article, the manufacturing model. So, to understand this, we need to know certain economic terms. The first is inverted duty structure. It means if intermediate products are having higher duties compared to the finished product, then we call inverted duty structure. Let me give you the example of a mobile phone. So if a mobile phone is coming from China to India, if the duty is 10%, if the mobile phone components are being imported by an Indian manufacturer, if the duty on the components is 20%, then it is an example for inverted duty structure. So, as components cost high for the Indian manufacturer, his production cost is also going to be high. So, the imported Chinese phone will be much cheaper compared to a phone that is manufactured in India. This has killed the manufacturing sector in the country. From the last budget onwards, the government is trying to correct this. There are two ways to correct this. One is reducing the duties on the components or increasing the duties on the finished products. Obviously, if we go by liberal attitude or liberalization values, then we have to reduce the taxes on both the things. But with the existing fiscal position, the government has raised the cost of the mobile phones by raising their customs duties. So one way it is criticized as bringing back the protectionism into India. And on the other hand, the consumer is not going to be at benefit because of this. Previously, he is able to get the cheaper products. Now the cost of the products is going to increase. Probably it may affect the consumer demand in the country. These are the things with regard to inverted duty structure. But why did the manufacturing sector fail in India? Why it was unable to catch up to the China to become the global factory? The one of the reason is India has exposed its manufacturing sector to a sudden jolt of LPG. It means after 1991, the Indian industry, which was under a strong protection, is suddenly exposed to international markets and competition. And technology was obsolete. There are no best management practices. That's why it failed to compete. So, a graded withdrawal of the protectionism could have been helped Indian manufacturing sector to survive. Then what are the consequences of this on the employment sector? Here we need to understand a word that is called employment elasticity. For a percentage of GDP growth, how many jobs can be generated? That is what we call employment elasticity. So employment elasticity is highest for agriculture, followed by manufacturing, followed by services sector. Now, as the levels of education are increasing in the country, the people will be looking jobs more in the urban areas, either in the manufacturing or services sector. So, the agriculture as a job market is losing its sheen. So, let us understand certain trends. So, initially after 1990s, there is fall in jobs, especially related to the manufacturing sector. From 2000 onwards to 2004-2005, so though there is a decline in the jobs, the environment is overall positive. From 2004-2005 to 2011-2012, the environment is very positive and there is growth of the jobs in manufacturing sector. So this period is majorly facilitated by the increase in economic growth. And manufacturing sector did not generate the jobs. The major sector that was responsible for this is in construction. The government's emphasis on spending on infrastructure was the reason for this growth. From 2011-12 onwards, the manufacturing sector jobs have decreased and the number of people seeking the jobs, the labor market started growing. So as the manufacturing sector is unable to cope up with the demand, most of the people are settling in the agriculture sector, though this is an underemployment for them. So this is the issue in India. Now, how to handle this? There is no option that we have to revive the manufacturing sector. One of the thing is correcting the inverted duty structure. The second thing is increasing the scope of the employment in the manufacturing sector through incentives to the industry. So especially skill development, all these are towards indirect incentives to the industry. And third, services sector is growing in India, and the skill development can add a value in the services sector. Another component which was dealt in this article is demonetization and GST effect on the job markets. The demonetization and GST has converted informal sector into formal sector. It means the people who were employed in informal sector before, they entered the formal sector. And the second is exports. Now Indian rupee is strengthening. Probably it may not act in favor towards the exports. So India has to revive its manufacturing exports, and along with that a consumer demand, especially from the rural hinterlands, is important to revive the growth. These are the important aspects. A roster of question. As of now in India, the Chief Justice of India is the master of the roster. That has led to the 4 senior judges voicing their concerns openly. So in this context, what this article says is, there has to be a predictable pattern in allocation of the cases, or there has to be objectivity in allocation of the cases. This will be appropriate statement. So in this circumstances, an subject-wise allocation of the cases based on the expertise of the judge and randomly allocating rather than a person deciding it will be an appropriate step. That's what this article talks about. Now, understand that the Supreme Court is a court of equals. It means all the judges are equal in Supreme Court rather than one being above the other. And the next is winter cheer. This is about ongoing Winter Olympics. So there are 2 major issues that is a point of concern or surprise to us. One is the Russian athletes, they are not allowed to participate because of systemic doping which is being perfected by the Russian state itself. And the second is North Korea is participating in the Winter Olympics in South Korea. So is this or else something leading to a dialogue between these 2 countries? We have to wait and see. And friends, this is about coalition politics. I am going to make a statement over here which is made by Ambedkar. So democracy will be constantly changing. It will be changing in its form and purpose. So democracy will be constantly changing. Democracy is ever changing in its form and purpose. So in these circumstances, post 1990s, coalition politics are a development. So coalition politics have led to instability for a while. But from 2000 onwards, we have mastered the art of managing the coalition politics. This has led to stability. So here, the frequently used word that is called coalition dharma. But mitra dharma is the word which is being used now. The coalition dharma is used when the party in power, the central party which is in power in the coalition, if it do not have sufficient seats and it is dependent on the other parties for its sustaining of power. But today NDA too, it has got its own majority, and along with that, a coalition government is in force. So the coalition partners are complaining that BJP is eating into their space in politics, Shiva Sena. And TDP is complaining that BJP is not concerned about the promises made to the state during division of Andhra Pradesh. So the coalition dharma is the word replaced by mitra dharma now. So it also reflects the change in politics in India. It's about saving Britain, it's not about Brexit. So remember, when Brexit was announced, the reason for that was a referendum. So what is the problem with referendum? The entire country will be divided into 2 camps. So yes or no question, or the major decision is reduced to a binary, that is yes or no. As the people are divided into 2 camps, the country is also dividing itself. So it is going to develop a lot of bad blood, hate among the people. So doing away with this hate, uniting the people on a common purpose, that is what is the way forward, our greatest task before the Britain. That's what in this person says about. And more than that, we don't have much importance over here. Rethinking protectionism. It is about Trump. Trump has attended the World Economic Forum Davos and he stated this way: America first does not mean America alone. It means that the protectionism which was spearheaded by Mr. Trump is taking a relook. He wanted to get away from NAFTA, Trans-Pacific Partnership, but now he says that he is ready to reconsider them. And recently, on the solar panels imported from China, South Korea, the sanctions or duties are raised by the America. But there is a lot of opposition from solar energy industry which was growing in America. Now if you take Elon Musk, he is largely investing on the solar energy. So in this context, there are many contradictions within the United States itself with regard to the protectionist policy of Mr. Trump. But we need to understand one thing. United States is a super saturated market. So the potential for growth when compared with emerging markets like India is relatively less over there. So ultimately in the long run, US as a market has to depend upon the emerging markets for its growth. In the future, the global growth is spearheaded by emerging markets like India, Southeast Asia, etc., not by the developed markets of US and Europe. Already the trend is clearly visible. Now, LET militants escape from hospital. So, it is security issues, just try to keep a point to yourself. Likely misuse no ground to strike down Aadhaar. Here the one important point is, now there has to be a balance between the state and citizen. And in this context, RTI has helped the citizen to gain the power from the state. It has empowered the citizen. Now what the Aadhaar is doing, it is taking away citizen information towards the state. So it is giving more power to the state. So in a democracy, citizen gaining more power is good enough. But the state gaining more power has to be seen with contempt. Now, our voice muzzled, says opposition. Now, what is the role of opposition in a democracy? Now, with regard to the challenges of democracy, parliamentary democracy, Ambedkar has stated this: lack of a strong opposition is a clear failure of parliamentary democracy functioning. So it means opposition will strengthen the debate and discussion. You know that the government by discussion, that is what we call the democracy as. So that's where the opposition gets a role to play. So if the government of the day trying to stifle the opposition, then obviously it is going to decrease the quality of democracy. So what has to be done? So in UK there is a practice with regard to the determining of the agenda of the house. The role will be given to opposition. Certain percentage of the time will be allocated to opposition. Opposition can decide the agenda of the house for that particular time. So in India we can follow the similar practice. And shadow cabinet, you already know, which is existing in UK, that also can be brought into India. So these are the points we need to remember. In the last page, I gave you the notes that will be available to you at lawx.in/CivilsPrep. Thank you very much.